I would first like to thank ICERM for this great opportunity today. This year my book Brothers and Strangers, a German-Iraqi Memoir was released. Professor Robin Cohen said the following about it. Navigating the choppy waters of a mixed heritage background is never easy, but Junis Sultan surmounts his diverse Iraqi, German, Muslim and Christian roots with a brave and powerful account of how solidarity and empathy can overcome what divides us. The fact that I speak to you seemed very unlikely at the beginning of a painful recovery journey that has eventually led me to you. Being here with you, even if only virtually today, feels like a dream. A dream that has driven me even at the lowest point of my life. On November 11th, 2011, I was so broken from the year-long repercussions of the Gulf War, our flight to Germany, and ethnic and religious conflicts in my family and in our environment that I didn't see any sense in staying alive. Tears streamed down my face that day. I was trembling. Could I throw away those precious people? Could I throw away myself? What was the good thing that waited for me? Where did that silent voice, that promise, come from? Could I possibly not feel worthless in the future anymore? If there was the slightest chance for togetherness and happiness, would I seize it? If there was the slightest chance to be myself and develop myself, would I seize it? If there was the slightest chance for freedom and peace, would I seize it? That day, the idea evolved in my mind. The first thing I would have to do, not only to survive, but to heal, was to write everything down. Maybe I could even use my story and create something good for others. This was the only way my life made sense to me. It had never been about me, but about sharing and encouraging the human experiences. The needs for bonding and freedom, the struggles for happiness and peace, and the connecting and liberating powers of love. The lowest point of my life was a turning point at the same time. The pain I felt was so strong that it gave me the power and purpose to go back to all the conflicts, traumas, losses, failures, but also the positive relationships and personal successes, reflect upon them, and use them as a foundation to build something good, step by step. Today I would like to share with you some important lessons of that unending journey and hopefully inspire some to make a difference for themselves and their communities, respecting all ethnic and religious groups. My parents' love for each other, which began at the University of Cardiff in 1961, was very uncommon at the time and asked for bold actions to overcome widespread prejudices against the others. On July 30th, 1963, my mother made a life-changing decision against the wishes of her parents, who were skeptical about the chances of an intercultural marriage with an Iraqi. She boarded a propeller-driven plane in Frankfurt that flew 2,700 miles to Baghdad to marry my father, live with him in Mosul for almost 30 years, raise a family with 7 children. Despite the initial hostilities and humiliations she faced in his family, who wanted him to marry a Muslima of their tribe, my parents' courage to keep on loving each other, being patient with each other, and supporting each other prevailed that tribalism and helped create a new colorful life for themselves and the people who wanted to take part. The first years were challenging. To protect their marriage, my parents had to set up and consistently defend boundaries against those who wanted to control, sabotage, badmouth, or destroy their uncommon life. They had to keep those at a distance who didn't accept the personal and social alternative to hierarchical tribalism. Love. Love is a choice and comes with many personal and social blessings. Love does not know ethnic and religious hierarchies. It makes people meet at eye level and see each other. It makes people bond, get stronger together, and thrive together. Indeed, my mother soon became fluent in Arabic and learned about the Iraqi culture. She became friends with Iraqis and Germans, Muslims and Christians. We celebrated both religions in our house and had the bishop and the imam of Mosul in our living room for friendly get-togethers. These intercultural relationships were possible because there were no crude or hidden attempts to control or assimilate the other, but built on mutual respect for each other's personal integrity and dignity as persons, as ends, not as means. The Second Gulf War, a reaction to Saddam Hussein's illegal invasion of Kuwait in 1990, changed our life forever. All of a sudden, our life was absorbed with survival during wartime and fleeing from destruction to a faraway country, Germany, where we repeatedly experienced the fear and hostility of those who overtly or passive-aggressively disparage people who are different from themselves. Our story is a universal story that gives voice to the record-high millions of refugees of our global reality, who are too often unheard, who have lost their homes and loved ones, who desperately try to regain a life in a foreign country to find a peaceful place they can call their home. This is not just their struggle, it's one of the most important tasks of our time. Integration and subsequently peaceful coexistence is our common global responsibility and our mutual concern, since our well-being depends on it. Integration is the fairest way of living together and the most efficient way of fostering the common good. Integration is about recognizing, respecting, and promoting each other's identity, abilities, and interests. It's about continuous acts of mutual respect, be they small gestures or large-scale political programs that live up to human diversity, creativity, and possibility. It's the application of moral principles. It's based on the truth that we are all created equal, with equal dignity, value, and with equal basic needs, especially the needs to be safe, belong to at least one community, and be generally socially accepted. It's based on the idea that we have common vulnerabilities, equal rights and freedoms, and, as social beings, equal duties to, as Rawls said, further justice, mutual respect, and mutual aid. I remember how I entered the Catholic kindergarten in Castells, Germany, as a 5-year-old. Bärbel, my new kindergarten teacher, knew that I barely spoke German. She kneeled down, took my hand, and welcomed me with a smile on her face. Though I was worried about our language barrier and afraid that our communication might fail, I wanted to seize the chance and make friends. Bärbel helped me. "I have a new friend for you. He barely speaks German, but he is very kind. Can he sit with you?" she said to 2 boys sitting at a table. Marcus and Dominic, eager to get to know me, became my best friends in kindergarten and in primary school. A little courage and mutual willingness were enough. We met regularly in our free time to play together. The more joy we shared, the more we connected. Our friendship also made me forget about the war traumas I carried inside and learn German at high speed. Everybody can get involved in championing integration. Every person we meet matters. Every kind, compassionate, and supportive gesture matters. Every connection we build with another human soul matters. Our little gestures might just make someone's day, but they might also stick with some people for a lifetime and rescue some in their darkest hours, when they are so broken and lonely that they do not want to live anymore. In those critical hours, our kind gestures can shed a light, be a reminder of the good in us, encourage someone to stay alive and keep working for a life in which we are connected and free. As regards the politics of integration, we shouldn't wait for things to improve somewhere in the future under some other government. We should show now and directly what moral principles we stand for. Our actions make a difference. They can motivate others to join our activism, which can eventually, if conducted continuously, become a social movement. In our case, protecting ethnic and religious minorities. I remember how asylum seekers and immigrants were repeatedly attacked, beaten, stabbed, even burned alive in Germany at the beginning of the 1990s by right-wing extremists. The atrocities were eventually stopped by the constant moral pressure of every single person who marched that time. I remember watching the news as a 6-year-old. The news anchor announced 300,000 people marched in Hamburg with candles in their hands against xenophobia and for more tolerance. Marches are planned for Würzburg, Nuremberg, Stuttgart, Hanover, Leipzig, Frankfurt, Berlin, and more cities. Right-wing terror went down because of the government, because the government had to react to the insistent, united, and thus powerful demand of the multi-ethnic and multi-religious masses on the streets and spent more resources to protect all people. Activism has many faces: social, direct, and political. I remember coming home from school as a 7-year-old. My father put on his jacket. "I'm going to the town hall to work in the election committee of the first Casteller Council for Foreigners," he said. "Every municipality that counts more than 1,000 foreigners has to install a council that represents the interests of foreign citizens and advises the town in these matters." I smiled, surprised by the existence of such a council and my father's involvement in local politics. Despite the initial resistance of the town council, Castell eventually gave us a home. "I want to give something back and help foreigners have an easier start here. You can visit me with your brothers around 8, he said before he left. We met him in the town hall. The mayor congratulated the 9 elected representatives, who all had different ethnic backgrounds. Their families and about 60 Castellers clapped their hands. Never before had I seen so many people with so many different skin colors, speaking different languages, and wearing different kinds and colors of clothes, all gathering peacefully at one place in Castell to make a difference. Standing in the midst of all those people, I noticed that while we all looked different, we were the same, Castellers. For the first time, I fully felt like Castell was my new home. A place where I could be myself, a place where I could connect with people, a place where I belonged." Activism usually begins with an idea and is often followed by a word. Words are mighty. They can speak truth to power and inspire people to get involved. In our case, protecting ethnic and religious minorities and furthering integration. The media plays a major role in this, as its key function is to uncover social wrongs and help people form reasonable opinions. I remember reading the Frankfurter Rundschau, German newspaper, on our kitchen table as a 13-year-old. One title was "Right-wing violence claimed 93 deaths in Germany from 1990 to 2000. For the first time, I was fully aware that the standard media acknowledged that social problem as well. I felt hopeful. Later, during my political science studies at Goethe University Frankfurt, I would understand why. Balanced and evidence-based information reinforces people's interests in social issues and empowers them to engage in open debates, the starting point to tackle xenophobia, racism, or any other social issue. Let me close by telling you how I engage in furthering integration today. I teach children and teenagers English, politics, and economics at a middle school near Frankfurt, which has a very diverse student body. I am also doing a PhD at Heidelberg University in modern political theory. The title of my project is Linguistic Justice: Rethinking Education and Liberal Democracy. It's about how public educational institutions and liberal democracy, analyzed by the example of Germany, can do more justice to the growing numbers of students that have a non-European background. It's about the politics of recognition, the prioritization of integration, legally binding frameworks, linguistic and global citizenship, community-based multilingual education, longer joint learning, and inclusive education that is open for different cultures, languages, and religions. There are many ways to further integration. They all make a difference. Last but not least, please, no matter what you have been through, no matter how broken you feel, know that something good is waiting for you. Keep loving yourself and other people. Keep your self-protecting boundaries. Be active and endlessly courageous. It's the most important virtue that brings positive change for yourself and your fellow human beings. Thank you very much for your attention.